Welcome to Early African Cultures and Societies. This is Melinda Klein. Early African cultures, while isolated by the Sahara, traded with the Mediterranean world, the Greeks and the Romans that would follow. Luxury items so revered for their splendor found their way into the hands of wealthy individuals from African kingdoms throughout the Middle East. While revealing aspects of early African culture and society, this lecture highlights the trade connections between East, Middle East, and Africa, specifically the Indian Ocean trade, while illustrating ancient African traditions, the arrival of Islam, their environment, ethnic diversity, politics, and the economy. The Silk Road was a hazardous caravan route from China to the Mediterranean. Contact in the ancient period had to be made. Historians date this phenomenon to Chinese exploration in 128 BC across deserts and mountains. Chinese Western exploration led them to reach contact with Central Asians who possessed not only alfalfa but strong war horses better than that found in China. Trade goods were sold along the way as well, not just from China to the Mediterranean. Parthian traders in Central Asia sold to the Chinese two important things. Number one, alfalfa. Number two, wine grapes not found in China. Alfalfa offered horses greater amounts of protein. In addition, the Chinese imported sesame, spinach, walnuts, and pistachios, along with some other crops. As the Silk Road became more successful, Central Asian peoples, often Iranian speakers, formed small villages for trade along this route. One such trade center was Samarkand, and it survives today. The successors to Alexander the Great's 3rd century BC empire had engaged in trade with the Parthians. Trade currency was silver and gold coins or even copper, sometimes strung together. The Silk Road was at times frequented by bandits. Nomadic peoples were often targets of raids or resorted to banditry themselves in hard times. Long-distance ocean-going trade was developed by the 700s through the efforts of Arabs, Persians, and Muslims, often taking the lead. A wide variety of goods passed through Chinese ports. China traders exported tea, silk, and porcelain to countries beyond the South China Sea, receiving in exchange exotic woods from India and Africa, along with precious stones, various tropical herbal medicines, and animal products such as ivory. Along the Silk Road to China came hides, furs, and horses. The eastern city where the Silk Road came to an end was Chennai. A dynamic maritime trade system existed from the 400s through the 800s. In the ancient period, Greek writers such as Herodotus in the 5th century offers readers stories of great sea adventures with monsters and sea creatures in the Indian Ocean ready to kill or eat sailors and ships passing through this unknown and uncharted eastern area. In 3 regions of trade, a variety of products and luxury goods traveled far and wide in the ancient world. Arabia, Africa, India, China, and the Indonesian islands produced trade goods favored by mariners. This Indian Ocean trade system was a sporadic deal. However, its organized networks of merchants, producers, and ship owners counted on trade to continue in good or bad political climates. Further evidence of trade is in objects found in regions in which the product could not be acquired or manufactured locally. Take a moment not only to evaluate the artwork on the right-hand side illustrating a trade vessel from China, but also main trade products on the left and shipping routes of the Indian Ocean region. From China, we have fine luxury goods. Imported into Japan, we have luxury goods. Sri Lanka brings in cloth while exporting spices, and Indonesia bringing in cloth, silver, ivory, and exporting spices as well. Little is known about early Saharan cultures. What we do know is supported by cave art of the Sahara left behind by Africans. In wetter times, cave paintings reveal hunting of large animals now extinct in areas which include rhinos, elephants, giraffes, and crocodiles. However, these animals have survived by migrating with receding forest and wetlands. Like other aspects of African life, early African religious beliefs varied from place to place, but certain characteristics appear to have been shared by most African societies. 1. Belief in a creator god. 2. Accompanied oftentimes by lesser gods. 3. Each sun god had a purpose, such as rainfall, shining of the sun. 4, belief in an afterlife. And 5, a tribal hierarchy of a priestly class in charge of rituals and ceremonies. Until 1000 AD, desert traders were largely isolated from the outside world with only a few ports to trade with, such as Carthage and Alexandria on the Mediterranean. There is some evidence that the domestication of cattle either took place in Western Asia or in Northern Africa among pastoral societies. Again, cave paintings in Northern Africa suggest this phenomenon. The Sahel is an ecological zone south of the Sahara and north of the forests in the south. It is a transitional zone of vegetation where pastoral nomads and traders had their base. Here lies Timbuktu, a trading center that became highly developed by Muslim traders by the 900s AD. After the fall of the Roman Empire, trade in North Africa was taken up by Muslims from the Middle East. Gold was once again traded for salt. African great traditions were rules intended for communication and social order. This intellectual tradition included written language, ethical order, and laws. This cultural legacy dominated common laws and beliefs practiced by the majority of people in Africa. Anthropologists call these small traditions. Ethnicity or common beliefs and practices tied social groups together. Diversity is writ large in Africa. One example is language. Next are religious beliefs, along with techniques in food production and ritual practices that divide kingdoms and cause disagreements between neighboring villages, natural boundaries, and ethnicity sets limits of territorial kingdoms. African kingdoms were diverse in language and customs. Two main language groups in Africa are the Bantu speakers of the Niger, Congo tropical river valley, and the Khoisan of southeastern Africa. Bantu speakers spread and migrated south and east, mining and smelting metals from 1000 BC. However, copper artifacts and jewelry appear later between 400 and 900 AD. The smelting of iron was a highly regarded secret by the ancient Greeks known from 1500 BC. However, in Africa, the knowledge of smelting iron came late and was imported by Muslim traders after the 700s AD.